Hello and welcome to the 2017 African Regional Conference in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. I'm joined this morning by Denis Kruger, who's the head of Sub-Saharan Africa for SWIFT. Denis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Now, you've recently taken on the role of head of Sub-Saharan Africa for SWIFT. What are your key priorities moving forward?
Well, key priorities in terms of our Africa plan, we've got a 5-year plan, is obviously to develop the key areas in the region, which is West Africa, around Nigeria, Ghana, where we've established an office, and then outside of that, the Francophone countries. And then East Africa, which has always been an important market for us, developing that market from a high-low security side of business, and then clearly business as usual more in the south, South Africa, which is still a very large part of our business.
Okay, now you're also working heavily with on regional payment systems, projects like the Syrus system for SADC. How are things progressing there?
They're progressing very well. We're now seeing substantial traffic being exchanged. We actually just had a meeting at the beginning of the African Regional Conference where we discussed, or we looked at statistics in terms of what has been going across the Syrus system and what is still going across the traditional correspondent banking channels, and it's about 50-50 at this stage. So our discussions are, how do we move it from the traditional correspondent banking all on to cross-border traffic on the Syrus system.
You're pretty content with how things are progressing so far. That's quite a good evolution of...
Yes, I think over the last 2 years, we're working very closely with the central banks in the region, the South African Banking Association, and then clearly with ourselves. And in support from our guys in Brussels, there's been great strides on the high-value payment side, the real-time gross settlement systems of the region.
And how about in terms of the low-value payment space? So how are things looking there? Because it takes a lot of work to get that right, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think if we look at our scorecard, we've done extremely well when it comes to the high-value payments. Low-value payments is a different challenge. We've been working on it for a couple of years. We even have a partner, Serve Africa, who provide the front end for the different institutions that would use or the system to do low-value payments cross-border. Well, I'm saying cross-border, but within the model it would be domestic payments in the countries that join the system. But there are some barriers to it. One is legislation. So, if you do, an example is Zambia, sells an insurance policy to somebody in South Africa and they need to pay the premiums. At the moment, that's a cross-border payment. But if we have a low-value payment system, like we have the RTGS Syrus, the real-time gross settlement system, then that would be a domestic payment. And I mean, the benefits from that is that the market just grows. I think the successes that we've seen with the high-value payment systems, we still need to feed that down into the low-value.
Okay, that'll take some time and a lot of hard work to get there.
Yeah, but we need to, it's the good fight. Huh? Mm-hmm. We will get there one day, but it's a medium to, I would say, a long-term goal of ours.
Now, from the perspective of Africa's securities markets, we've heard a lot about, in this year's ARC, around the idea of convergence of securities markets. We've heard ideas around efforts to bring up some of the smaller markets up to level the playing field amongst securities markets on the continent. How does this space look to you in terms of the bigger picture today? I
mean, we have South Africa, we have the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, we have pockets, we have in Nigeria, and we have in East Africa. But we face the same challenges in terms of the low-value payment. It's legislation, so in terms of pension funds. South Africa, you need to invest a large portion of your funds in the local market, so that's what drives the stock exchange. The pension funds invest in their own country. Nigeria have passed legislation, but I think they need to enforce this in a number of other areas. So, and the same as in Kenya, they need to follow the same kind of process. The more you invest in your country, you need to put those funds somewhere. And then the stock exchange is a natural place for that to grow. Okay.
Well, Denis, this is the last day of the African Regional Conference 2017, so we better head to the auditorium now to see these final panel sessions. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to the last day of the conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.